Welcome to this Thursday morning pregnancy yoga and movement class. Let's start, before we do a kind of seated arriving, let's start standing just for a moment before we come to the ground. Come to standing, however, is easy for you, using hands on the ground, all our weight shifting, easy shifting of weight. And then when you arrive in standing, take one hand to your womb space, to your baby, one hand to your heart, and start with this figure of 8 through the pelvis. And take it even slower so you can feel the shift of weight from one foot to the other foot. And as you do this, imagining that the legs into the pelvis, and then the pelvis into the spine, and the spine into the skull, is all really smooth. You might want to visualize, I don't know, a particular color or a particular texture kind of streaming between your joints. We talk about, on an anatomical level, the synovial joint fluid, so the kind of the lubrication between the bones. And how can you imagine that as a kind of poetics in your experience through color, to encourage that sense of ease, fluidity, mobile, shifting joints, right? Aiming to get towards greater ease. Now, that's never going to end. That aim is going to be a constant kind of exploration. And therefore is the invitation to always adjust. And that's what we're doing now. Adjusting to get comfortable, to feel free through the bones, through the tissues, through the fluids of the body. And as you carry on shifting, if you feel like it wants to come further up into the shoulders or into the rib cage or even into the fingers and the hands, allow this easy figure of 8, this shifting to keep moving you as you connect to some deeper breaths. And this tempo might be totally what you need. A little slower perhaps, or even a little quicker if you wanted to take it into a pulsing, that's also very welcome. If you're taking a quicker pulse, you might notice how the flow of weight feels less sustained and more now rhythmical. Whereas this figure of 8 here, there's not so much pressure changing. There is a little bit through the feet. If I'm bouncing, then sure, I feel that pressure change more. And then you can alternate between a flow and a pulse if you wish, or a shake of the arms, shake of the hands. Keep connecting to deep breaths and occasionally adding a sigh through the mouth. Maybe let's add one little last thing before we bring ourselves to sitting. Maybe peeling one heel off the ground and giving that leg a little shake and putting it back down again, shifting to the other leg, giving it a little shake. So there's a bit more of a throwing off of the energy of the legs, kicking off whatever's going on that can just disappear for the next hour. Shake it away. Clearing space for your own process, for your own inward exploration. So from this fluid inner sensing, more of a sense of scattering, shaking. And of course, if I said to you balance on one leg, that might feel more strange to do. But this sense of just stepping and kicking makes balance so much more easy because you have a context with which to put it in. This shifting weight, this doing something when you're on that leg, doing something with the other leg. So there's a layer of like very simple, complex stuff going on here through your body all the time. All right, let's take the arms out to the sides. And let's do a couple of half sun salutations with the arms. Now, if you're feeling like your blood pressure it's going up or down, and like breathlessness is arising. Don't take your arms over the head, take them just through the sides. We'll do 3 inhales and exhales very simply, kind of open our day. So bending the knees, inhaling the arms up and over the head, exhaling, bringing the hands down in front of your face. You can stroke across the face. One hand lands at your heart, one hand strokes down over your belly to your womb space. Inhaling again, lifting the energy up. And exhaling, a sense of gathering into your midline, crossing in front of the third eye, throat, heart, energy centers of the lower body into the pelvis. One more time. Inhaling the arms up. And exhaling. Coming into contact with your own heart. Coming into contact with baby. And feel free to take a moment of stillness here or take some easy swaying. And then we'll gently walk our way down to the ground. So hands over the thighs, down the shins. Coming into a comfortable seated position. I'm going to take a kneeling position. I'm really silhouetted in this light, never mind. Placing one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, connecting into baby, connecting into your heart. Closing the eyes. Breathing a connection from the center of your heart down to the center of your baby's heart. And as you exhale, visualizing that connection from the center of your baby's heart back to yours. Circular connection, ongoingness between. And the next time you exhale and bringing your attention from your baby's heart to your heart, place your lower hand on top of your upper hand. And we'll open our practice with 3 rounds of the mantra Om, inhaling through the nose. Keeping your eyes closed, bring your attention to the center of your forehead and set yourself an intention for your practice today. Quality, state of being, something you'd like to keep cultivating, coming back to. When you've arrived at that, recite it to yourself 3 times with faith and feeling. And then gently blinking your eyes open, giving the hands a rub. Obviously, when I say the word faith, I mean faith in yourself, confidence in your own intuition, self-knowing. And then from these rubbing hands, give a little tap over the face, over the skull, over the jaw, round the back of the neck, over the collarbones. So I'm using my fingertips, so it's quite percussive. And then patting underneath the armpit, patting over the top of the arm, down the back of the arm, and then up the inside of the arm, from the palm, inner arm, and then back under the armpit again. Down the back of the shoulder, down the elbow, and up the inside of the arm. We'll do that one more time. The breath nice and full, stimulating into the arm, the wing of the arm, and then the other side underneath the armpit. Giving some stimulation to the muscles in the top of the shoulder, down the back of the arm, up the inside. And again, underneath the armpit where our lymph nodes are. There are lymph nodes also in the groin, and stimulating these areas is important for moving the lymph fluid, which otherwise doesn't get to be pumped in the body. And this is an important one for immunity, immune system, circulation, regulation. All of these kinds of gentle movements, even if they feel like they're not doing a lot, they're definitely doing plenty. And then taking your hands to your belly, giving a gentle rub to the surface of your belly, saying hello to skin, and then all the way underneath the skin into the womb space. And then taking hands to the lower back and giving space of the lower back a rub here. You might want to take your fists, take a gentle knock with the knuckles up and down the sacrum to the tailbone, up towards the kidneys. Gentle stimulation of the points here. And then bring the hands back to your belly. Let's take fingertips, knuckles together, interlacing the fingers, reaching the hands away from you, and then reaching the arms up. Gentle stretch of the back of the neck as the chin draws towards the chest, opening up the inside of the arms, opening up through the collar, through the armpits, and then exhaling, lowering the hands down. Great. I'm going to come onto my hands and my shins, so shifting off the cushion but keeping it nearby. Let's come onto hands and knees. And take a moment just to pad through one hand and the other hand, peeling your hand off and placing it back down again. So right now, during pregnancy, joints are feeling very elastic. There's a lot more space in between all these little parts, and so we don't want to kind of jar anything. Sometimes stabilizing with a lot of force is useful, and sometimes finding more of the mobility is going to be more gradual for your bones to reorient themselves. So after padding through the hands, let's just shift onto the hands a little bit and then shift back towards the heels. So spine is long, head is reaching, tailbone is reaching back again. So shifting through the ankle joint, well, through the hip joints and through the wrist to the lower arm joints a bit here. If it feels like it's too much on the wrists, just don't come so far forward. And if you'd like to take fists instead, that can be a bit more like less mobilizing through the wrists. Okay, let's pause, shifting forward and back, and now go into circling. So similar, spine is long here. But now we're taking the movement a little bit further right and left, as well as forward and back. Oiling through the hip sockets, and now circling in the wrist sockets and the wrist joints. And the other direction. And please add some vocalization here, maybe a sigh, or a yowl or a growl. Connecting to voice in whatever way you wish. Could be an Great. And then we'll take feet together, knees wide, come back into child's pose. Feel free to grab a cushion to rest your head on, or stack many cushions on top of each other if you're feeling like the bump is really, really large in front of you. How can you make some space to find a supported forward fold here in child's pose? Sending the breath into the back of the body, seeing if you can send the breath from the tailbone to the skull. Sense of breathing up the spine, opening the vertebrae. And as you exhale, letting go into gravity a little bit more, deliberately inviting your body to relax into the base of support. Breathing in for the spine. And exhaling, giving into gravity. And then slowly looking forward, walking yourself forward on the mat. Knees adjusting back underneath the hip sockets, hands padding again to find a comfortable place underneath your shoulders. Let's go into some rounds of rolling cat. So bringing head down, gazing towards your baby, shifting back towards your heels. Looking forward, staying low as you shift towards hands, pressing into the hands to come back to where you started. Tailbone and skull come towards each other a little bit as you look back towards your baby, towards your feet. Shifting into child's pose, shifting forward, pressing up. You might want to take your knees a bit wider. That might feel more comfortable through the hip sockets. You might not want to go so low, and that's totally fine. You might just go a little bit lower than what I'm demonstrating, making it work for your body. We'll do 3 more of these. And keep adding the voice. Feeling this shift of weight between the hands and the shins, similar to what we were kind of imprinting in our first opening movement. And after your third one, take a little freestyle, take pelvis anywhere it wants to go, take skull where it wants to go. Little shift through pelvis, through spine, through shoulders. Again, opening up the voice. Shifting. And then finding a moment of stillness on all fours. Let's slide the left foot round and come into a lunge. Let's take the left hand to the thigh and take circles with the right arm. And so finding all the space above you and behind you with this arm circle. Couple more, getting a sense of the space around you. Maybe your head turns to see. Maybe it stays forward if it feels like that's more comfortable. And reversing the circle with this arm, feeling a connection between the palm and the elbow and the shoulder blade, this whole wing of the arm into the breastbone, into the spine. And then finding hands to the ground. Let's take some circles through pelvis here. Just 3 or 4 in one direction, and then shifting into the other direction. This is always much more comfortable with a cushion or a blanket underneath the knee. Making sure that your joints aren't getting tired here. And then we'll slide left foot back, come to sit on your heels. Placing one hand on your heart, one hand on your baby, closing the eyes for a moment, feeling the vertical. Sensing into breath here, allowing breath to come in and let go. Inhaling for the length of the spine. Exhaling, softening into those parts of your body that can relax a little bit more and be received by the support of the earth. And then blinking eyes open, we'll shift onto hands and feet, hands and shins. Slide the right foot round to the second side. So finding the right forearm to the thigh and then opening up with the left arm. Tracing the space above you, behind you. And indulging in every single part of this, rather than rushing to complete several revolutions. How can you take the time for every single part of this circle? And then reversing the direction. Feeling this arcing of hand into shoulder blade. With the support of the right foot and the left shin. And then finding hands to ground, taking circles through pelvis. And in the other direction. And then finding stillness, shifting into the hands to make space to shift the right leg back. And then either taking child's pose or sitting on your heels, finding a comfortable position to be in to take some breaths. Noticing the residue of those movements through your body. Connecting into stillness. And then noticing the movement of the breath within that stillness. And then let's meet back on all fours. So shifting onto the hands, knees underneath the hip sockets. Let's do some leg and arm raises here. Sliding the left fingertips forward, lifting the arm, and placing it down again. Lifting right arm up in front of you. And replacing that hand back down again. Let's slide the right toes long, finding a calf stretch with the toes tucked under, and then lifting through that leg, keeping the pelvis as square as possible. And then toe comes down, knee comes down, left leg extends, finding a stretch for the calf, and then lifting up the long leg, reaching the heel away from the skull, and lowering the toes, lowering the shin. Again, left hand slides, and lowers. Lower back is not crunching here as the spine stays long. Right arm lifts and lowers. Right leg extends and lifts. Toe touches down, shin comes down. Left leg slides, reaching through the heel. Left heel lifts off the ground. Toes return, shin comes down. Let's come back onto the heels. Take 3 rounds of inhaling the arms up. And lowering the hands down. If that's feeling like it's giving you breathlessness, take the arms to the sides. So let's do that one more time. Coming onto the shins again, let's add a variation with the leg, our kind of tiger's roar. So finding again left arm and lower. Right arm comes down. Right leg extends and lifts, and then we'll bend the knee, turn to see the knee. Give it a little yowl, growl, side, toe comes down, shin comes down, extending through the left leg. It lifts, knee bends. And lowering. Another round of this. Left arm slides, hand comes down, right hand slides. Right hand comes down, right leg lengthens, lifts, bends, extending through the leg back to parallel. And the second side, extending long. Great. And then let's come to shins. Extend right leg out long. Then we'll take a reach, the left arm up and over. Taking a stretch here in our half moon variation. And then bringing the right hand down to the ground and the left arm off the ground, right arm over the ear. Taking a long stretch here, pressing through the right foot a little bit. And then bringing the head up to the middle. Hands might come down to the ground, shin returns. Taking feet together, knees wide, coming into child's pose or into puppy dog or into seated virasana to take a couple of breaths before we do the second side. Enjoying a moment of stillness, refinding that sense of breathing up through the spine. And then with every exhale, where can you soften? Where can you let go into gravity? Sensing the contact with your body and the earth. Clothes on your skin. And breath, constantly reminding you of this ongoing replenishing that your body can do. And blinking the eyes open, let's come onto shins again, working your way up to being on shins, extending through left foot. And then taking the right arm up and over. My left hand is just resting lightly on my thigh, it's not on my knee. And I've got an arc going on with my right hand over my head, opening up through the sides of the waist, underneath the shoulder. And then finding right hand to the ground, left arm up and over. Coming into this long side stretch to the left side. Left foot gently pressing into the earth. And then bringing torso back up. Hands come to the ground as you then slide the left foot in. Again, up to you, child's pose, puppy dog, seated Virasana. Taking a couple of breaths to notice the residue of this asymmetrical side stretch. And checking in again with the intention that you set for your practice. How is it appearing? How can it be an embodied experience? How does your body know? Meet it. And we'll all meet back on all fours, knees coming underneath the hip sockets, hands padding easily underneath the shoulders. And then let's tuck the toes and come into some downward dog, sun salutation variations. So pressing into the hands to hover the knees, sending the pelvis high, coming into a stretch. Inhaling, lifting onto the balls of the feet, exhaling, allowing the heels to reach towards the earth, then keep the knees bending. Keeping the knees bent, look forward, see your hands, walk your hands back towards your feet. Then we'll carry on walking the hands up the shins, pressing into the feet, hands coming up over the knees, and inhaling the arms up, either over the head or to shoulder height. Bringing your hands down in front of your face and your throat and your heart. And then we'll carry on easing our way back down into the air. Walking your way back out onto all fours. Let's take 3 press-ups here. So when you arrive in your all fours position, bending through the elbows, pressing the ground away in connected voice. Elbows hugging the sides of the waist wall. So elbows staying narrow, finding this more in the backs of the arms, and then tucking the toes. Let's send the pelvis high, coming into another downward dog, turning the head from left to right here. Knees can be bent or straight depending on how you're feeling today. And then giving the head a little nod. And then softening through your joints, softening back, hands towards the feet. Sense of the whole body working together, all the parts coordinating. This time as you find your hands to your thighs, let's take a little extension through spine. And then releasing, pressing through the feet, bringing yourself to stand in mountain pose. Inhaling the arms up and over the head or through the sides. Hands coming down in front of your face and your heart. One hand rests at your heart, one hand on your belly. Taking a pause here. Feel free to go into some free movements through pelvis as we started with, or finding a still point between your 2 feet. And blinking the eyes open, pressing into the feet, bending the knees, inhaling the arms up. Bringing the hands to the heart center as you exhale, inhaling, lifting the sternum, and then softening through your joints, walking your hands down over your feet, over your knees, onto the ground, bending through the knees, walking your way into the earth, connecting really the hands into the earth, shins to the ground. Let's take 1 round of rolling cat here before we do our next downward dog. Rounding the spine, pelvis comes back, shifting forward, sighing through the mouth. And then tuck toes, pressing into the hands again, sending the pelvis high. Let's take 3 rounds of horse lips here. and then walking your way easily back towards your feet. Not staying in our inversions so long, hands coming up over the knees. Let's take an extension through the spine. And then gently rolling yourself to stand. Inhaling arms through the side, exhaling hands to the heart center. One hand rests at your heart, one hand slides down to your belly. And taking some easy movement here, or finding stillness, depending on what you feel like your body needs. Feel free to close eyes, bring your attention in. Noticing how your body's feeling. Noticing the strength of your body. Continuing to glide through the bones. Maybe reconnecting to the colour of the fluid between the joints. Having a sense of the whole structure. And gently blinking your eyes open. Let's inhale the arms to the side. And then bringing the hands to the heart center and then shifting your way around to stand. And we'll do some standing warrior poses, activating some leg strength here and feeling into the hip sockets some more. So in these warrior poses, we have quite a lot of asymmetry through the internal and external rotation through the pelvis. So use this as an exploration of seeing how pelvis can move very easily and really not going to the end range at all. So I'm going to propose that we do all these standing poses with a sense of kind of buoyancy in the pelvis rather than feeling like things get stuck. So let's turn the right toes out and the left toes slightly in. And starting with that sense of buoyancy, you can have hands to your heart, one hand to baby, or extend the arms if you wish. Let's take 3 easy pulses through the right knee. So I'm finding this flexion through the ankles and the knee and the hip of my right leg. And I'm just going to shift around and do the other side. So very simple, making space through the joints gently. Finding this easy shift of weight now with a different kind of sense of direction. And shifting back to the first side, let's take warrior 2. And then opening the arms. Let's take a flow over, back and forth. So left arm comes up and over, right arm rests on the thigh. And then taking the spine back and the right arm over the head. 2 more like that. Legs staying fairly mobile. You might deepen a little bit as you come forward. You might come out of that stretch a little bit as you come back. 3rd time. And then finding yourself back in the middle of warrior 2. Straightening through the right leg, turning on the heels. Having a moment in the center, one hand to your heart, one hand to your baby. Maybe taking some easy movement through pelvis. You might want to readjust your feet. Maybe even taking a little pulse, or taking a little dance through your hips. And then we'll set up for the second side of that. Left toes forward, right toes in. Legs don't have to be wide. This doesn't need to be a super deep bend of your warrior 2. Finding somehow a very casual, easy, fluid version of this. Right arm up and over the top. And then arm coming back, reaching overhead. Engaging the sides of the body a little bit more here as we find some space underneath the rib cage, underneath the armpits as the lower body anchors into the earth. And the lower body might find also the sense of buoyancy. And then coming back through the middle, straightening the left leg, turning on the heel, bringing the feet towards each other a little bit. Connecting into yourself. That might be in stillness, it might be in some gentle movement. Let's take 3 sighs to the mouth there. We're softening into the jaw. Relaxing the tongue, relaxing the throat. Good, and then let's set up our legs a little wider again, coming into right toes forward, left toes in. And we'll do a longer side angle pose. So right forearm to the right thigh. So similar to what we just did, but now we'll hold it. We'll hold the lower body. And now take some circles with the arm. And your gaze can look down to the right foot. A slightly more challenge perhaps through the legs. And just a few circles in one direction. And then the other direction. Really using your legs here. Trying not to dump all the weight into that elbow. Using that back leg. Keep pressing through the back leg to bring you up. And then straightening the right knee, turning on the heels, finding a moment of step kick. Some fluid shaking through body before we do the second side, finding these dynamic contrasts. Now stabilizing a little bit more into the feet as pelvis glides. Elbow rests, right arm comes up and over the head. And then strong through the right leg as you take some circles with the right arm. Keep pressing that right foot into the earth, as well as strong through the left foot. Just 3 or 4 circles in one direction and the other direction. And keeping the lower body stable to bring yourself up. And then straightening left leg and then taking a little kick, shake, shift of weight from one side to the other side. Good. Let's take a balance. Let's take a warrior 3 balance. So finding hands to waist, shifting onto the right foot, and then lifting the back toes just an inch off the floor. So the leg is in parallel. Maybe lifting the leg a little bit more, tipping forward and coming back. And your feet might touch the floor each time. So it's like a little dipping, one of those little wooden toy birds. You pull the string and it dips to take a little drink of water. Finding some easy fluid rolling over that right top of thigh. Sense of stabilizing through the muscles of the hip. Through motion. And then we'll switch to the other side. Finding this as a gentle repeated balance rather than holding it forever. Finding a little tip. And then finding the foot on the ground again. Keeping that back leg in parallel. And so, as pregnancy develops, your center of gravity will feel different each day. Your sense of weight will feel different each day. Making this an opportunity to sense into the flow of weight rather than feel like you need to balance for 10 minutes. Practicing stepping into an alignment and back out to 2 feet is a sense of kind of imprinting the pathway rather than worrying about how still or how kind of stable this is. And then that's enough on that side. Let's come back to 2 feet and enjoy standing in parallel in mountain pose for a moment. Inhaling the arms to the side, connecting into the midline, hand to heart, hand to baby. Close your eyes. Standing into mountain pose, maybe lifting all of your toes off the earth and then re-spreading them wide on the mat. Do that a couple of times, lifting the toes up, spreading them, pulling them down. Lifting the toes up, spread the toes, place them on the earth. And have a sense of breathing up through spine again. And allowing the exhale to soften any areas of your body that you can invite some softening into. Great. And then let's gently open the eyes. And come we'll come back down to the ground, do some pelvic floor work and some breathing. So bending the knees, inhaling the arms up, and exhaling, softening through the joints, coming down the way that we usually do, walking our way down onto the earth. And let's take a moment on all fours. And when you arrive, take a little shift of the pelvis side to side. So there might be a subtle shift of weight underneath the hands again. And as you do this, noticing, bringing your attention already to pelvic floor. So maybe your attention had been there earlier in the session, but now let's take a little bit more conscious awareness of these bony landmarks. You might even get your fingertips and you can feel your sitting bones. You can feel into your tailbone and coccyx. Taking fingers to these areas is really helpful to kind of orient yourself to these parts. And if you shift again with your hands down, you can kind of imagine tailbone, sitting bones shifting as well. And then let's take some really small rolls of the spine, but imagining pelvic floor is lifting to around the spine, not very far. And then let go of pelvic floor to undo the spine. So really small, lifting up through pelvic floor and that pressing into the hands a little bit to around the spine. And then opening through pelvic floor, softening, widening. Take a yawn here. One more like that. Gathering in pelvic floor, pressing into the hands to round the spine a little bit. And then softening, opening front of spine, pelvic floor yawns open. As you take a yawn through the mouth. And then shifting back onto child's pose. Knees can come wide. Make sure you get some cushions to stack yourself up. Resting easily into a child's pose. Make sure you've got enough space for your bump, for your skull. Hands could be forward, hands could be behind you near your feet. And take a moment to sense into pelvic floor here. And with every exhale, can you widen a little bit through pelvic floor? Can you soften through the space? Finding some moments to rest and to relax into pelvic floor. And in a moment, we'll come to sit and we'll initiate this movement right from pelvic floor. So in your child's pose, the first thing that's going to move is pelvic floor, and that's going to shift you forward onto your hands and then finding a bolster, maybe a brick. And coming to sit on top of this. So pelvic floor is now supported. And if you wish, taking some circles again, sensing into these two sitting bones, right and left, and then finding somehow towards the back of sacrum. Your tailbone really disappears into the flesh and you can't feel it really, but you can definitely sink towards the back of pelvic floor, towards tailbone. And you can shift forward towards pubic symphysis. Here you can take your fingertips if you wish and sense into these two bones. And remembering that this is a joint, also with synovial joint fluid in between. Recalling that colour of the fluid between the bones here. And shifting in the other direction if you haven't shifted. And so sensing into pelvis, sensing into its volume. And then finding a place of stillness between the front and the back of the pelvic floor and the right side and the left side. And taking the hands somewhere comfortable. It might be resting on heart and baby again, it might be resting on the knees. taking a sigh through the mouth here, and then on your next inhale, gently lifting up through pelvic floor. And gently releasing. And so finding an easy activation of the sphincters, but also of a sense of a deeper inner lift. And then releasing, softening, widening. And seeing if you can do this with as minimal possible effort, which sounds ironic because you're definitely using your muscles. But what I'm encouraging is that you don't just snap them on. Can it be a sense of inviting the tissues to move? Sense of the muscles hugging towards each other. And then softening and widening. Coming into this very intimate awareness of the inner space of the pelvis. Feeling the movement that is possible through an activation of muscles. And then when you let go, allowing the body to take over, allowing any little adjustments, shifts of weight, breath. Coming into this wisdom of your body's pelvic floor. How it can accommodate so much. Carrying on a few more gentle lifts, activations, and releasing. And as you do this, how easy can the breath be? But later on, during pregnancy and after, there will be these moments of intensity, surges. How can all of this work now help imprints and practices that invite the wisdom of the body? Sensed knowingness of what is needed. The cellular level trust. And after your next activation through pelvic floor, allowing the pelvic floor and all the muscles around to yield into gravity, to be held by the ground, by whatever they're in contact with. Sensing the weight of your body. In yoga, this kind of downward flow of energy is called apana. And so with all of this downward flow of energy, let's reconnect to spine, inhaling through the vertebrae. All the way to the top of the head to renew this sense of the exhale into this downward energy. So what comes up through the spine is a renewal of the sense of lift to then soften back down. Sense of breath as recuperation and as preparation. And then let's add on to this lift through the spine rather than a downward yielding into gravity. Let's add on golden thread breath. Inhaling up through the spine, and then your exhale through the mouth and the teeth is now forward out into the horizon. allowing breath to travel out through the mouth through a small parting of the lips and the teeth, and visualizing a long golden thread traveling from your mouth far out into the horizon. Couple more rounds of golden thread breath. Inhaling to find length through the spine, and then exhaling to find the horizon. And gently blinking the eyes open. Take a couple of head rolls, chin comes down. All of that ease and weightedness through the pelvis now can stay there as the spine is mobilized from the top. And in the other direction, very easily gliding the bones. Maybe 3 or 4 in one direction and then the other direction, and then coming up through the center. Let's take some very luxurious shoulder rolls here. Inhaling, lifting the shoulders up. Exhaling, rolling them down. How smooth can this be? Finding ease through all the tissues. And the other direction. So that the very tiring process your body will be stepping into. Birthing, and then all the time after, feeding, nurturing, caressing, comforting. Remembering that your body also needs that for itself. And that working smoothly, gently through the bones, through the joints, is probably one of the kindest ways to do it. And let's take an inhale of the arms up. And then exhaling, bringing the hands down in front of the forehead, reconnecting to your third eye, thumbs resting on the eyebrow center. And then resting on your lips, thumbs connecting to lips. Thumbs connecting to the heart space. And then resting one hand at your heart, one hand at your belly. You're welcome to take a seated Shavasana, or if you'd like to take a Shavasana lying down, please go onto your left side. Setting up with lots of cushions underneath the knee, underneath the bump, taking this time to settle into gravity. And when you arrive in Shavasana, take some rotations of consciousness through the body. So relaxing the right thumb, right first finger, middle finger, fourth finger, fifth finger, palm, back of the hand, wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, right shoulder, the whole of the right arm, left thumb, first finger, middle finger, left fourth finger, fifth finger, left palm, back of the hand, wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, left shoulder, whole of the left arm. Relaxing through the right foot, the right toes, right sole of foot, heel, top of foot, ankle, calf, knee, thigh, right hip, whole of the right leg. Taking your attention to the left foot, left toes, sole of the left foot, heel, top of left foot, left ankle, calf, knee, thigh, left hip, the whole of the left leg. Bringing your attention to the right arm and the left arm together. Bringing your attention to the right leg and the left leg together. And bringing your attention to the skull, face, releasing eyes, nose, lips, teeth, tongue, ears, jaw, throat. Relaxing into the neck, collarbones, shoulder blades. Releasing into the heart space, space between the lungs. Softening into diaphragm. Bringing your attention to the womb space. Casting your mind's eye down to your baby. Visualizing baby's hands, arms, feet, legs, baby's head, torso and pelvis. Bringing your attention back out to the space, to the heart space. And resting your attention at the center of your heart. And visualizing a soft pink light at the center of your heart. And as you breathe in, this light at the center of the heart starts to grow. Traveling through into the space around the heart, into the breasts, into the solar plexus, towards the throat space, towards diaphragm. And with every inhale, this pink light starts to spread further through your body, down into womb space, threading its way into the depths of the pelvis, into pelvic floor, through into the skull, through into the face, through the shoulder girdle, into the arms, into the hands, through the leg gates of the hip sockets, down the thighs to the feet. Soft pink light, filling every cell of your body. And we'll take a couple of moments in silence to bask, to rest, to breathe. You're welcome to stay in Shavasana if you would like, or easily rolling yourself to left side even more, to use hands on the ground and push yourself to a comfortable seated position. Placing one hand at your heart, one hand on your belly. Closing your eyes. And recalling the intention that you set for your practice today. And we'll close with one round of the mantra Om. Inhale. Om. Thanking yourself for taking the time to come and practice. Namaste.